Hey, what's up everyone? Today we are testing the SV01. So with the SV01, I wanted to put it straight to the test. I wanted to see how much detail I can get. I just wanted to see what can I do. I was coming from a very old printer, a pretty much build it yourself 3D printer, the cheapest thing I could find on eBay. I was having just so many issues with my printer that there was a point where I just didn't want to print it anymore because it was taking so much time to post-process the prints. First of all, I have to say that the printer itself came pretty well packaged. This was a really big package, so if you know how shipping carriers work, they tend to toss things around. So knowing that this thing was properly packaged, when I was opening it, I felt that I was getting something that had the care that it was supposed to have, because it had all this foam just to protect the printer. To me, just knowing how the printer came in packaged, it just said a lot for me. It said, okay, this is the care that we're putting into this product. And to me, that was a really big thing. So the shipping, the packaging for me is very important because it's supposed to maintain the product's quality until it's in your hands. And that's how I felt I received it. Now, assembling the printer itself, well, Savol states that it should be assembled in about 10 minutes or so. I must say that I took about 30 minutes, and that was straight out because in my past experience, this was a very complicated thing. So I try to be as careful as possible, and I just wanted to make sure that this was properly assembled. For this type of product, everything is precision. Everything is supposed to be precise, meaning that if a screw changes, everything else is going to change. You know, if a screw shifts or a position shifts, everything else gets dragged in with it. So when I was assembling it, I was just trying to be as careful as possible because I didn't want to have any issues. Putting it together, I don't think it was difficult at all. I do think that since the printer is semi-assembled, it's pretty heavy to pull that out of the box and start putting it together. But it's really, really easy. It takes about 4 screws just to put the printer on the X and Y axis together. And then after that, you just have to plug in a few cables and the printer should be ready to go. Even putting the filament into the actual printer, the printer itself came with a small roll of filament so I can test it, and putting that filament into the printer itself was extremely easy. I was really satisfied with those things. So by the moment I opened a printer, I think it took me about 45 minutes before I actually started printing something. So the Savol does come with a direct drive extruder, a Manuel power supply, a dual Z-axis motors, which do come in handy a lot, I think, a tempered glass building plate. It also has the ability to resume prints in case any power outage. And also it has a filament detector that it allows you to stop the print if you run out of filament. So although all those specs sound really cool, I have to be completely honest, once I was involved with the printer itself, I didn't really care about those things because I was coming from a really bad printer. So my question was, can this thing print something for me? Once I started printing, about 45 minutes right after I opened the box, I got my first print and I saw this thing working to its fullest, and now it was just a matter of time of waiting for the final print or see if there was any problems that were going to come up, and you know, testing this thing out. Another really good thing that I noticed about the printer was that once the printer started and it was actually melting the plastic, in this case I was using PLA, the PLA wasn't sticking to the nozzle. So in my past printers, it would always stick to the nozzle for some reason, and I have no clue what type of nozzle it is. I have to be honest. I did reach out to these guys, and I think it was just a regular brass nozzle. I was expecting something higher end because the plastic just wouldn't stick to it. So wherever the plastic is, it would just stay. So as soon as I saw that, I figured in past experiences, those were some of the problems. There was just some plastic in the nozzle, and that plastic was either getting melted all over the place, or that plastic itself was damaging the rest of the print. So that's something that I didn't see here, and to me, that's a very big plus. I decided I wanted to go for a print that was definitely gonna test the skills of this particular printer. And I was actually waiting for a resin printer so I can print this guy, because the amount of detail on this guy itself was a lot. And coming from my old printer, I was not gonna be able to get that amount of detail if I was gonna print this on my old printer. So that's why I decided to print this guy, because I wanted to put this thing to the actual test. And the results were pretty good. I wanted to test everything. I wanted to test the printer itself, but also my knowledge, because I've seen some things online that, you know, didn't go exactly with what I thought. For example, in my old printer, I had to put the nozzle pretty much touching the build plate when it started the print. Otherwise, the print wouldn't stick. No matter what I would put, the print wouldn't stick if the nozzle wasn't touching the build plate. I tried that with this print, and that print failed. Also, another very cool thing that once you get a 3D printer, people would say, oh, use a piece of paper. Use a piece of paper to calibrate it. You know, it should barely be able to move in between the nozzle and the bed. So that's what I did here. And at first, I didn't think that was gonna work, because on my previous printer, that would fail all the time. But because of this build plate glass has this texture to it, I feel that part has a lot to do with helping the prints stick properly to the bed, which is also very important to actually getting good final prints. The model that I printed had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total parts. And all those 7 parts were printed differently, from different speeds to different layer heights, different infills, different supports. And I wanted to test all those things, because all those things matter, at least to me, at the end of the print, because the post process was always very painful, and it would take a lot of time. So I tried all those things, and at the end, for me, the outcome was very, very similar in between all those different prints, especially in the layer height. Although it is noticeable if you have a model with a lot of detail, but if you actually look at it, and if you look at your post process, it won't be very noticeable if you're working on a low resolution model. So as a creator and as a designer, to be honest, me, although I do enjoy sanding down my parts and my models, and the post process of actually printing, it's really cool. But I already do all that process. I already apply all the detail while I sculpt the model. So for me, the SV01 is giving me the opportunity to spend more time creating and designing and less post-processing, which is what I want. So although I do enjoy the post-process of the model, painting it and sanding it down and giving it the look that I want, at the end of the day, I had already created the model digitally. I had already sculpted all the detail that I wanted in the model. So it's really good to be able to have a printer that still provides all that detail for me, so I don't have to work so hard in the post-processing. In the past, I had to apply about 3 to 4 cans of primer to a sculpted figure, because the post-process was so painful. The damage on the sculpt, on the print itself, once I removed the supports, it was just nasty that I had to work so hard. And as this printer cut that in half. It said, you know what, all you have to do is print this model, apply a few coats of primer, and you will be seeing the results that I got. I applied the first coat of primer, and you can see the amount of detail. You can still see some of the lines, some of the layer changes. After the third coat of primer, I was able to remove almost all the layer visibility, or the layers that you would see for a 3D print. Although the model has a lot of texture, I wasn't losing any of that texture either, because the print itself, although you can see the difference in the layers, once you start working on it, and that's the beauty of it, that if the actual print itself is printed properly, once you start applying a little bit of primer or a little bit of post-processing, you should be able to get the results that you want. You shouldn't be able to have to be sanding 2 to 3 days in a row, which is what I did in the past. And so for me, this printer just really changed everything, the way I saw 3D printing, the way I felt about 3D printing, and I can't really stop thinking about how many other things I'm about to print, how many other designs I want to do now because of this. So that is my review of the SV01. I am extremely happy with the printer, to the parts that I'm able to print and the print quality that I am able to get from the actual printer. I couldn't be happier, to be honest. I really wish this would have been my first 3D printer. See you guys next time.